Hey everyone, today I'm going to be teaching you how to paint a watercolor snowman. So I already have my 3 circles sketched out for my snowman. I have my color palette already prepared off to the side. I have my Winsor & Newton beginner watercolor set. I have my Princeton snap brushes, my 2 cups of water, my paper towel, and we are good to go. So to start painting, I definitely recommend having your circles already in place, but I want you to erase them very lightly because we are going to make our snowman, he's going to be very lightly gray, but we don't really want our pencil lines to show through. So you just want that there just for reference so that you have an idea of where you're going. So to start, we're going to get a light mixture of Payne's Gray all set up to the side. And then using clean water, I'm going to fill in the bottom circle. Now that my circle's all filled in, I'm going to take a little bit of that light gray paint mixture and I'm just going to start letting that fall in. One side, and it's going to be the left, is going to be slightly darker than the right, just to give that natural, where the sun is coming from effect. So over here I have more gray. I'm going to dry my brush off. I'm going to kind of blend this water out just a little bit. I'm going to go back into that gray just on my tip of my brush. And then I'm just going to drag that in along the line, the outer line of the snowman. Because I still need to have something separating the snowman from the white page, but I don't want it to just be a gray snowman. So I'm going to add a little bit more gray over here, just because I can really tell it's blending up, just like that. All right, that is our first snowman layer. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to let it dry, and then we're going to move on to the next layer of our snowman. I'm actually going to draw in my scarf really quickly. I want my snowman to have a scarf and earmuffs on, so I'm going to do that before I paint in the center layer. So right under this top circle, I'm going to make kind of a circular rectangle. And I'm letting it go above my snowman's, the top circle. And then so with that, I'm going to have a little bit hanging down and add little tassels at the bottom. And I think for this, I'm going to do stripes. So I'm just going to put that in place for my future guidelines. All right, and then with my eraser, I'm just going to very lightly erase, but where I can still see my scarf. All right, and now we can paint. So we're going to do what we did before. We're going to fill up this area with clean water, and I'm not going to let it get into my scarf. I want my scarf to stay dry. Just like that. And then I'm going to go back into that same gray mixture. I'm going to tap that in just along the rim, the outer rims, and then I'm going to blend that. I'm going to do a little bit more right along the base of this layer. And then a little bit more right under the scarf. Just for that shadow. Just going to blend this a little bit. And then since now this circle and this circle are no longer connecting, we can go ahead and fill this circle up with a clean layer of water. So now that that has clean water in it, we're going to repeat by getting some of our gray mixture and just bringing it all around the rim of our snowman. We don't have to worry too much with this because, and that's all we're doing, we're just putting it around just the outline. With this, we don't have to worry about the earmuffs because that's going to be on the outer edges of the snowman anyway. And my snowman is facing upward. I'm going to have his nose pointed upward, so we don't have to do too much shadowing other than that. So we're going to let these two circles dry, then we're going to come back in and we're going to add the little details to our snowman. All right, so now what we're going to do, we're going to sketch in our earmuffs. So on either side of the snowman's head, just draw little cotton balls. Just like that. And then one line, one curved line to connect the two. And we're going to leave it just a straight line because adding our paint to it is going to make it appear thicker. And then we're going to draw a triangle, very thin triangle facing upwards. And then little closed circular eyes for our snowman. I'm going to I want my triangle to be a little bit thinner. Just like that. So now I'm going to just erase a little bit to make my lines a little bit lighter. I'm going to leave the eyes darker just because they're not going to be colored in at all. They're going to be dark, so they're going to get covered by Payne's gray, so they'll be fine. I'm going to move this eye just a little bit closer. There. And then, very important part, we're going to give him little circles for a side smile. So we're going to have 4 circles off to the side. I'm going to wait to add in his arms until after the background of the snowman is complete. So don't worry, I did not forget about his arms at all. They are just going to come in a little bit later. All right, now that we have this sketched, we're going to first start with the scarf. So I'm going to do a red and blue scarf. And I already put in my stripes, so I'm just going to follow that with just the red paint to begin with. And real quickly, I wanted to mention that over on my blog, Reflecting Creation, I will have all of the supplies that I used as well as the specific paint colors that I used listed over there. So if you just go down to the description below, I will have the link to my blog, written down over there. So you can just click that link and you'll go straight to this blog post explaining in a little bit more detail about the snowman. And then I'm going to do the tassels in red, just like that. And then while we have our red paint on our brush, my earmuffs are going to be red. And I want to leave some white in there because I don't want it to just appear to be a red blob. I want to give it some depth, and we might add a little bit of black ink to this at the end just to give it some final detail. All right, so clean your brush off, and then while we let the red paint dry, we're going to go into our orange paint mixture for the nose. So dab off on your paper towel any extra paint, and then just fill in the carrot nose. I'm adding just a little bit of little extra detail in there. It's really nice if you have a brush that has the pointed tip for little details like this. All right, and then I'm going to let that dry. I'll probably come back in with a second coat for the nose, but I'm going to wait to do that till it's dried. I'm going to take some Payne's Gray, a very dark mixture of Payne's Gray. You can also use black on the very tip of my brush. And I'm just going to go over where I had the eyes. And add a little bit more paint to my brush. And then I'm going to do the same thing with its smile. So little charcoal dots. And then, with our Payne's Gray, without touching, we're just going to pull that all the way over. Just going to straighten my line a little bit. Just like that. Don't be tempted to mess around with it too much. Whoops, I'm sorry, I dropped my brush. Just because I've done it before where I've messed around with it too much, then my tiny little line for my earmuffs becomes this giant black blob, and then you have to start the entire thing over. So there we have that. This is still drying, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my heat gun. I am going to completely dry the rest of this red, and then I can go in confidently with my blue paint. Right now we're going to go into our blue paint. We are going to add the detail to our scarf, and then we are going to give this snowman a nice wintry background. So I'm dipping into this navy blue paint that I mixed up together, and again I will have all the colors I used to get this specific color listed on my blog. I'm just going to fill in these center areas. And it's okay if you leave a little bit of white space. It's the beauty of watercolor. It doesn't have to be completely filled in for it to look good. Wonderful. So there's our scarf. I'm going to do really quickly. So I'm going to pick up some paint right here. Just to give that some dimension right there between the two. All right, and then, like I said before, I'm going to go back in now to my orange paint. I'm going to fill back in my carrot nose, just so it's a little bit deeper orange. This is totally optional. You don't have to refill in your snowman's nose if you don't want to. All right, and now, since all that we did is in the center, I'm going to take my larger brush and I'm going to fill in this bottom area under the snowman with clean water, being careful not to touch him, just keeping a nice distance, a very small distance between the snowman and the water. Because I don't want to reactivate any of that gray paint we put on him. And then I'm just going to take the smallest amount of blue and gray and mix it together. And then I'm going to tap it in around the base of our snowman and then drag it out. I'm going to clean my brush off and I'm going to blend that downward. I want this to be the appearance of snow that our snowman is sitting on. And again, with snow, it's basically just adding the shadows. And I chose to do blue, and I usually do gray when I paint with snow, but because our snowman is already with gray, I wanted there just to be a little bit of difference between the two. Right, and so that is our ground. We do want this to dry before we do the sky. So I'm going to let this dry and then we'll come back and we'll add our sky behind our snowman and then we'll give him some arms and he will be done. Right now we are going to add a clean coat of water to the sky area behind our snowman. And again, we're going to be careful not to touch any of the area that we have already painted. So just very carefully place a nice coat all around him. This was one of the biggest reasons I waited to do his arms. And I should have waited to do the top part of the earmuff, but it's okay. We can make it work even with it there. So just fill in all the way around it. Make sure it's not pooling in any areas. And then I am going to very carefully add some clean water right underneath, in between the head and the top of the earmuffs. All right, and now I'm going to take a very dark paint mixture of the navy blue paint mixture that I made for the scarf. And I'm just going to start applying this behind our snowman. You can tell my water has dried very fast. It's already just starting to blend, so I'm going back in. I just added some more water to my brush. And I'm just going to go in and I'm going to blend this out with that water on my brush. I'm very carefully going to go around my snowman, especially since my water already dried. Get as close as I can to him without touching. Going to blend out these lines over here. Then I'm going to take more of a light wash. I'm going to go in between right there. Very carefully. So now you can just kind of play around with it. I like the color that it turned out. Once it dries, I can see if I'm going to want a second coat. But right now I do really like it. So we're going to let this dry and then we'll come back in and see if we need that second layer or if we can just add our arms to our snowman. Now we are going to finish off our snowman with his stick arms. So I'm going to start on this side and I'm just going to draw a straight line using Payne's Gray. Going up, and then I'm going to give him some uneven fingers. Then I'm going to repeat this step on this side, and then I'm going to give him also some uneven fingers. And then with the Payne's Gray, I'm just going to add a little bit of curves to the earmuffs. Because I decided I wasn't going to go back in with ink, but I could just very quickly add some detail with the Payne's Gray paint. I'm going to do the same thing with the scarf. Just kind of going to go on the top and bottom. And I'm going to go very carefully in between the colors. Just like that. And there you have a watercolor snowman. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed painting with me today. I hope you found this video helpful and that you learned something new. If you'd like any extra details on this tutorial, head over to my blog, Reflecting Creation, for all the supplies that I used, for all the paint colors that I used, as well as extra details on how to recreate this watercolor snowman. Before you go, hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. I hope to see you again soon. Bye.